Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades, and welcome back. And what are we getting into? We are getting into the Ultimatum Marry or Move On season 3. We are now on episode 3 called Sealed with a Kiss. But before we get into this video, as I always ask, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so you know when I'm doing videos, because you know I am on the road to 1k. Let's deep dive into this, shall we? So in a previous episode it left off where it was JR's turn to pick. So he was either going to pick Sandy or Arya. We all knew that it was not going to be Arya. Come on now. I mean, the shit that he was talking with Sandy, the Lost is speaking through the Ross megaphone, let's just put it that way. He put himself on blast. Yeah, the way in which he was speaking about this girl. She put herself on blast too, the way in which she was speaking about this man. So we all know, as it was, JR picked Sandy, right? But before he picked her, he started waxing poetic about Sandy's being sexy for him, how she has this wild side, and she brings out his wild side. I'm like, yeah, that's why you kissed her, though, dude. That is why you kissed her. Do you know what I mean? So this is why I say they need to stop with these long speeches and this suspense, because we all knew she was going to pick her. So it was like, why don't you just pick her and be done at the end of the day? I mean, he wasn't really looking at Arya. Arya really didn't have a looking at the end of the day. JR is full of it, let's put it this way. So no surprises there. No surprises there that he chose this girl, because at the end of the day, the way in which he was talking, in the fact that, you know, that Sandy's white, and Arya will be the type of girl that he would normally go for, because she's more in keeping with Zaina, his previous partner, I shall say. We knew where he was going to slide into at the end of the day. I mean, he wants to enter the Garden of Eden, like, and sin all over it. So let's just call a spade a spade. We knew he was going there. Sandy was sitting there grinning her gnashes off. Let's just put it that way. All I hope it really works out for her. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't believe these people pick each other for the right reasons at the end of the day, because with these two it was just bare lust that was talking, bare lust. And that's why I'm wondering, how much is it that they will learn off each other, except I want to rip your clothes off kind of learn off each other. Nick basically looked astounded by JR's pick, like fully astounded. He could see Sandy was grinning like a pig in shit, let's just put it that way. So it was bothering him all the more, until JR basically turned around and said, you know, she's not the type of girl I would normally go for. Although she's gorgeous, I probably wouldn't look at her. I was like, Holmes, could come again. So JR is literally saying, because Sandy is kind of like a forbidden break for them from the norm, that's why he caught Sandy. Okay, JR be testing those snow-capped mountains, let's just put it that way. So Nick is not liking it at all. But I'm like, at the end of the day, this is what y'all signed up for. This is what all of you signed up for at the end of the day. And not so long ago, this man was there chatting Vanessa up like he wanted to leave with her, questioning his ultimatum to Sandy and all sorts. But Nick is so bothered right now. Like, honestly, so bothered right now, because he knows he can't compete with somebody like JR. And if you know what I'm saying, then you know what I'm saying. Nick could not compete with someone like JR on that hemisphere, in that sense. So it was giving, I licked her first, she's mine. It was giving some weird type of energy, like, I want my cake and eat it too, but you can't have that That's what it was giving. And for me, JR was just letting secrets out at that table. It's like he forgot that, you know, his own woman was sitting there listening to everything that he was waxing poetic about Sandy about. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just like, for me, JR was just playing in people's faces at that point. Like, all I kept on thinking is, why don't you shut up? Why don't you shush? Because you're telling on yourself way too much right about now. So he talks about how him and Sandy were sitting on the couch, and he basically told her to shut up after she said something, and she turned around and says, well, no, you shut up. And he liked it because he'd not had someone put him in his place before in that sense. And he goes, this is toxic, but it's non-toxic. And I said, what in the fuck up mountain did he just say? Like, seriously. And if Nick rolled his eyes any much further back in his head, this man will be seeing his brain. Like, seriously, this man was rolling his eyes like a gooden. So Arya, Zaina and Nick be looking like as if to say, for real, friend, what are you talking about? Like, really, what are you talking about? So Nick turned around and said, that's a pretty fucked up canvas basically that we are painting here. And JR gave him the heavy side eye when Nick said that. And I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, you can't give Nick no side eye from what you just said. You just literally stripped his woman bare at the table, bent her over and smacked her ass and said, look at me, in front of everybody with your words. That's exactly what JR did. And I mean, he couldn't hide the lust behind it all. He literally could not hide the lust behind it all, and then expected people to not come at him sideways when he showed it. Like, seriously. So Sandy, of course, let me guess, chooses JR. Who knew that was coming? Who knew that was coming? Not surprised at all. Yeah, she chose him for the same reasons that JR chose her. At the end of the day, she talks about how they're similar, but they both must think people that they're nuts, that they literally can't see what's happening between the both of them. Like, we really see right through them right now. So it's just like they just want to leave. They just want to get together and get hot and heavy with each other. That's how it was coming across. So for them to really think that they've got a connection beyond lust up in there, I just don't know where they connected the dots on that one, to be honest with you. So Nick is literally not taking any of what's being said at all. So they turn to Nick, and speak to him. He's so pissed that Sandy opened up so quickly to JR, and he turned around and said, I've had to work so hard to get her to open up to me. And I was like, what do you mean you've worked so hard to get her to open up for you? Did you fucking bribe her into opening up for you? And to be fair, she probably didn't open up to you in the way that you believe she opened up to you. And if she's kind of done that with JR straight off the bat, then, you know, maybe she's kind of telling Nick that it's something ain't quite right there, and that's why she didn't want to open up to him that quickly. Do you know what I mean? She probably didn't trust him with her feelings that quickly at the end of the day. So then we see them two kind of back and forth again, and I thought, oh my god, it's literally going to turn into the Sandy and Nick show right about now. They are so combated with each other. I don't understand how any one of them listen to each other and have got so far in their relationship, to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest, when I felt that Nick was acting like a big old whiny baby, and he feels he was smacked in the face by her opening up so much. So Nick is now a emotional mess. Yes, I said those words. He's in an emotional mess. Say it with me. Emotional mess. I mean, I sat there thinking, what do they think is going to happen in this process? It's never going to be an easy process. And if they've watched the seasons before, they know how hard other people have it in this process. What made them think that it was going to be so freaking easy for them? Like, come on. But the fact of it is Nick is talking about how he has all these strong feelings for Vanessa, but now he's sitting there like berating JR, berating Sandy for this situation and X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, all these men want is just to be number one. That's all they seem to want, yeah? And expect the women to accept that they must be shared, but don't want to feel an ounce of it when they know that they have to share their woman with somebody else. That's what they signed up for. So Vanessa was literally looking at Nick as he was speaking up, basically. So she turns around and decides to defend Nick by saying, like, you know, it's difficult for your ex. And I'm just saying, this is what I mean, that they're not really your ex. It's a technicality of the show. Okay, but I digress from that. So she tells the table that, you know, with your ex, you want them to reciprocate those emotions and feelings with you that you have for them, but it's hard when they do that with someone else and haven't with you. Well, it makes, go figure, do you know what I mean? It's going to be hard, you seeing your ex basically sitting and choosing a man who outright displayed his lust for her. It's going to be hard regardless at the end of the day. So Vanessa talks about the first date that her and Nick had poolside, and she felt Nick provided a platform for her to express herself. And the smile that came up on Nick's face, yeah, I was like, dude, just a minute ago you were close to freaking tears, yeah? Where did they go? Where did that emotion go that you were just showing towards JR and freaking Sandy situation? Now it's like, oh, I just felt sorry for Dave. Like, because when they showed him, he just looked so out of sorts, and it was literally like an outsider looking into the shit that was going on now between Vanessa and Nick, because Dave could see how much Vanessa actually liked Nick, and he didn't know how to deal with that at all. Dave's emotions were all over the place at the end of the day. So Vanessa does the old adage of, you know what, to Nick, anyone would be lucky to be married to you. I'm like, my girl, you only just met the dude. And I think for people to be saying shit like this already is just surplus for freaking requirements at the end of the day, because you don't know them. You don't know how they be. You don't know the situations that's happened between him and his partner, yeah, for them to get to the position that they're in, and the fact that she's opened up more quickly to another person than she has with you. You don't know what's gone on there for you to turn around and say, oh, well, you know, anyone would be lucky to be married to you. How the f do you know? How do you know? You don't. So Dave is kind of struggling to contain his emotions, and as I said, I do kind of feel for him at the end of the day, because everything is hitting him tenfold, and now he understands what he stands to lose. And I thought, maybe you should have opened your mouth at the get-go, my brother. Like, seriously, in talking about marriage, when Vanessa tried to talk to you. Now he's kind of finding out the hard way. So Nick called Vanessa like a kindred spirit. She's like an onion in terms of the layers and yada 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 yada, and how they're both weird onions together. And I was like, sometimes I sit here and I listen to these men talk, and sometimes I do listen to some of the women talk, and I think, what do they have? Do they have a fucking notepad where they write this shit down? Is this really coming off the dome, or is this a script? Like, seriously, who talks like that? Like, see, who talks like that? So you see, as them two are starting to talk, everybody can see the shit that's going on between Nick and Vanessa fully. So Vanessa chooses Nick, no surprise there. Nick chooses Vanessa, no surprise there. So Nick goes on, basically, and he's someone else that can't shut the hell up, man. He just keeps on going and going and going. And I'm kind of like, who put a fucking penny in this man and made him go? Because he's not shutting up for love nor freaking money. So he's telling Vanessa about she's someone he met in a past life, someone he trusted immediately. I was like, Nick, just shh. He was laying it on too thick for me, like really laying it on too thick. I can't, and he was going, I just can't imagine having not gone through this without you. I'm like, her dude, is sitting right there having to listen to all of this. Nick had no sense of scope when it came to the words that were coming out of his mouth, and how painful it would be for somebody else hearing those words, just as painful it was for him hearing the words that JR and Sandy were saying about each other. Crazy. Just really crazy. And then the tears come for Vanessa, basically, and she talks about how it's scary and so real and she's having a hard time. But I was like, what are you having a hard time with? Because I think Vanessa's having a hard time with the fact that, you know what, she's found someone that she really connects with, and probably connects with more than she does with Dave. And I think Dave saw that too at the end of the day. Yeah, reality's gonna hit her backside for real, let's just put it that way. So Dave then speaks up. And let me say, when Dave spoke, he said what he needed to say eloquently at the end of the day. He had resigned himself to the fact that Vanessa was finding it hard because she may have feelings for Nick. Yeah, Dave ain't obtuse. He sees it. He does. He knows he stands to lose Vanessa at the end of the day. And just by how he said it, it's kind of like he was ready for it at the end of the day. He gave her the full green light at that table to not to hold back. That's how I saw it anyway. He still feels like he made a mistake coming on the show. I'm saying, yes, she did. Because now you're feeling it with the magnitude, the fact that you're watching your partner literally have feelings for somebody else across that table and not give you a hay or nay at the end of the day. And still Nick won't shut his arse up. He's still yabba 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 yabba. So then he sets off Scotty, and Nick and Scotty now be bonding in terms of how they feel with these people now, and things that weren't necessarily so good with the other person. And I thought, this is what we need right now, these two emotional men bonding. I just don't think Scotty had Arya's back in any way, shape or form, to be fair. I think he wants Arya to pour into him 100%, but he does not do that for her at all. So Arya speaks about how she struggled this week when she's been like literally up and down. She talks about Caleb, and she also talks about JR, and she talks about the experiences that she's had with Caleb in her dates, because at the end of the day they have connected due to the fact that they have a shared experience in regards to how they grew up, and they can draw off that experience together. She turned around and JR is a sweetheart, and she wished him the best at the end of the day, and she could see that he was going to pick Sandy. But I think Arya had a lucky escape with someone like JR, to be honest with you. I can't put my finger on it right now, but I just don't think JR's righted in his head either. So Arya is never disrespectful at all towards Scotty, and neither is Caleb towards Mariah or Scotty at the end of the day. So they are so matter of fact. So we know Arya chose Caleb and Caleb chose Arya at the end of the day. Arya basically says to Caleb that you give me that space. And Scotty's face, if you ever watched it closely enough, was a picture. He looked like he smelt something foul. And this is what I said. He does not validate Arya in any way, shape or form. Yeah, his facial expressions and his words tell me everything I need to know about this man. Like, seriously. So I like Caleb and Arya together, actually. I actually do. When I saw them together, I actually think they actually suit. He turns around and he talks about how Arya is driven and independent, and he sees his ex, as in Mariah, as quite a codependent person. I do think that's due how Tamara was brought up by her mother. At the end of the day, she was brought up to literally depend on everything with her mum. She wasn't brought up in the fact that, you know what, you need to make your own path and try and explore the world around you to know what it is you like and what you don't like, and how and where you fit in. Mariah wasn't given those experiences at all. So how Mariah and Caleb got together, I really don't know, because they just look at odds with each other when I do see them together. So yeah, so we have 6 brand new couples. It's Caleb and Arya, JR and Sandy, Scotty and Zaina, Mariah and Micah, Dave and Chanel, Nick and Vanessa. So the new way in which this happened is they actually have the engagement rings on the table. So it's basically, the engagement ring is a symbol of their commitment. So they will take the ring with them into their trial marriage. They will move in with them. They'll meet the family and friends for 3 weeks. Then 3 weeks they will all return back to their original partners. And after that, it's the ultimatum. They either leave, they're engaged, leave alone, or with somebody else. I hope Arya goes off with Caleb, to be honest. That's what I'd love. That's what I'd honestly love. So Arya sees what Scotty did with Zaina in terms of making a point that he felt seen by her, but she still doesn't want to lose him. I don't know. I think with how Scotty showed himself of who he was so early on, I would be glad to be rid of him for 3 weeks if I was Arya, and concentrate on Caleb and what differences he shows, or any kind of opening that he can show in regards to how Scotty is actually manipulating Arya into getting what it is that he wants. I don't understand how Arya can still be. I know it's because, you know, you're still going to be attached to that person, but Scotty is not the one for Arya. He really isn't. And that is why I say Arya and Caleb are suited for each other. And the way Caleb looked at Arya as well, when he, just before he went off to go and get her the tissue because she was crying. Yeah, I saw that look. I saw that look. I don't know if you lot saw that look, but I saw that look. So Nick is basically talking about how he's scared he will lose Sandy, but he has an established connection with Vanessa. He said this may change his mind on the ultimatum he gave her. So yeah, I don't get Nick right about now. Like, I really don't. Vanessa is also being conscious of the fact that she may fall in love with somebody else. So this girl didn't walk, she literally ran into that, but hey ho. So the first starting of the trial marriages we see first is Vanessa and Nick together. They do talk about tonight and about Vanessa crying. Nick called JR a knucklehead. And I thought, why is that, Nick? It's because he's big, has tattoos, and he's black. I mean, doesn't really make him a knucklehead at all at the end of the day. I think someone is a little bit jealous and feels threatened by JR. That's why he said what he said. And then Nick turned around and called a JR low-hanging fruit. I know he probably meant it in the context of, you know, JR could be easily picked and that's why he's low-hanging fruit, but there's also a historical context in relation to black men and low-hanging fruit, and it's in regards to lynchings. So yeah, Nick should have chose his words a little bit carefully on that one, especially when speaking about a black man, and calling JR low-hanging fruit wasn't the best choice of words, let me just put it that way. So Nick keeps on going on about how he's feeling shitty. I thought, yeah, because you're jealous, mate. Like, you're literally jealous. I would say again, he's threatened by JR. Vanessa asked him what made him feel better, and he turns around and says quite quickly, "I'll seeing you." I was like, oh bitch, please Nick, we saw right through that completely. Vanessa was right in front of your face the whole time you were screwing at that table, so I call bullshit at the end of the day. So basically Nick thought Vanessa was mad at him because he felt she was not looking at him. I thought, mate, she was sitting right across from you. How could you not see her looking at you? I mean, my gal was looking at how upset you were portraying yourself to be in regards to JR and freaking Sandy at the end of the day. This man was spilling his shit across the table. Yeah, not once but twice towards Sandy, coming off as the jealous lover. But he's saying he had enough time to believe that Vanessa was not looking at him, and he believed her to be mad. What a way to put your insecurities onto somebody else's shoulders at the end of the day. He deflected from the whole real issue of what his problem was. So yeah, I'm gonna have to see how Nick and Scotty is in this, because to be honest with that, I don't like either of them at the moment. So Vanessa keeps on blowing smoke up Nick's ass. Basically, she feels with him that it isn't difficult for her in connecting with him. And I thought, yeah, because this man literally blatantly sits there and tells you what you want to hear in your ears. Like, he really does. Like, I'm just like, sometimes people can be too open, like way too open, yeah, in their feelings with people. I couldn't do that. Like, seriously, I would have to hold something of myself back until I could truly feel that, yeah, you are the type of person where I can show a little bit more to. If you're just giving me all these fucking types of flowery words, that ain't gonna happen. I have to see the action too at the end of the day. So even when Vanessa is talking to him like deeply, she's touching his wrist and stuff, he doesn't really look, when she first touched him, like Nick doesn't look like he welcomed it at first. I don't think he was listening to what Vanessa was saying, to be honest with you. I mean, that could just be me reading into his tired expressions, but he didn't look like he was taking on board what the frick she was saying to him. And Vanessa is still going, she's still talking to Nick about that it's all sent her into an emotional spiral. I'm still getting some iffy energy off Nick, like he isn't really interested in what it is that Vanessa has to say. So all Nick says in return is 100% he understands Vanessa, and again it's all about what he didn't think he would do without her, and he didn't want to talk or be with any other women within that thing, so it was literally just going to be all about Vanessa. I think Nick is used to getting women on side by saying what he thinks it is they want to hear. As you can see, Vanessa is completely lapping up what he's saying. I don't know how much of it is true, but she's not reading anything else into it. I don't like Nick's energy. At the end of the day, he shows some signs of self-centeredness, kind of like Scotty does, to be honest. So then we move to Sandy and JR. So of course it's not surprising that they start flirting with each other. They'll be sharing the king bed, and JR called Sandy his wifey in context to not sleeping on the couch, basically. So what he's basically saying is, well, you're wifey now, so why in the hell would I be sleeping on the couch? I'm getting in the bed with you. So when they use the term wifey, I literally have to know, what is it in that term are you using it for? Because what are you expecting under the category of wifey? What is it that you're looking for at the end of the day? So Sandy is basically excited to learn about their different background. Sandy is one of those people that she says she likes to sage herself if she feels like she's acting up. JR was not too taken by the idea of Sandy trying to sage him in his sleep. I was like, don't do any type of bullshit to me in my sleep, because that will come back to bite you in your motherfucking ass at the end of the day. JR for me was just literally being overtly sexual towards Sandy, especially when he's talking about Sandy and her dress. And I'm just like, as a woman, having that, knowing that you've just met this person, you've chose this person, you're open to getting to know them for part of this process, now you're alone with them and they're being quite overtly sexual towards you. How do you behave in that type of situation, especially if you don't know them well enough to accept that hardcore overtly sexual type of banter? Because that would make me feel very uncomfortable at the end of the day. I'm not saying that, you know, JR would do anything, so don't make any inference from that, but me personally, it would make me be a little bit icky in that sense. JR definitely thinks that Sandy will bring out a different side to him. He does tell her that he never dated a white girl before, and Sandy brings up the not looking at her twice comment that he said at the table. JR basically talks about how they have a genuine connection. I was like, yeah, nah, you don't have a genuine connection at all. Your connection is lust-filled. That's what it is. More so for JR, it's very much sexual direction, sexual tension, definitely lust-filled. I think Sandy's trying to get to know a little bit about him, but she started off on that lust journey first, and that's where it's taken to. So yeah, nah, I think them two are going to come at loggerheads at some point in this. So Sandy talks about how, like, Nick was very scared, and she talks about how she believes that Nick was quite jealous and she's never seen him that jealous. Yes, Nick was very much jealous at the end of the day, but I also get the feeling that she found it quite hot at the end of the day. It was just a weird discussion that them two were having. When you see Chanel and Dave, and they kind of actually suit each other, to be fair. I think they've found it very much weird because they're both in the same boat in terms of they don't want each other, but they want their partners. And They each wanted to leave at some point. Basically, Dave is in a bit of a headspace because he saw Nick literally pick up the engagement ring off the table and walk away with Vanessa with it, so it kind of pissed him off and made him go into his own head. I just sit there thinking, like, why did you agree to this? Like, honestly, why did you? Dave basically doesn't trust Nick, and I don't either, my friend. I don't at all. And then we get to Micah and Mariah. They're such an odd couple. My God, that conversation was so awkward, and I think all it did was make Micah miss Chanel all the more, because now he knows what is missing. Now it's gone at the end of the day. I was just like, my God, could they get any more boring? Now we're talking about how they like this space. They were talking about like certain things that they like to do and don't do when it comes to the homestead, and how they're gonna work it out with each other. Yeah, it weren't good. It really was not good. So then we go to Aria and Caleb. Now Aria is still very much upset about Scotty, and I said that's exactly what Scotty wanted. The reason why Scotty said what he said in regards to Aria and her not fulfilling his needs and X, Y, and Z is because he knew it would get to Aria. He knew it would get to her, and she would dwell on it, and she wouldn't have a great experience with the person that she's now with at the end of the day, because he wants Aria to believe that she is going to lose him. That's what he wants. So Aria is worried that she will not be able to replicate what Scotty has with Zaina if he finds something with her personally at the end of the day. I don't think Scotty is worth all of Aria's angst. I get, like, you know, they're going to have these emotions because they've invested so much in these people for an X amount of years, but how I'm seeing it and how I'm viewing it, Scotty wasn't good enough for Aria in the first place at the end of the day. So as I said, Caleb takes care of Aria's needs, and I'm just thinking that these two will just make such a great couple. They really will, because Aria is now not feeling secure at all, and I said that's because of how Scotty treated her. He made her feel that way, and no one can tell me that this man does not know what he's doing when he says the words that he says in front of Aria and everybody else, because he's literally trying to paint Aria as the villain in his story. So Caleb talks about his own insecurities as well in this too, and Caleb is just a breath of fresh air. He's so deep, and Aria's able to talk to him properly. But I do see the little looks that they give each other. I really do. So then we get to Zaina and Scotty. Zaina basically says that she wants to decompress. So Scotty was going to leave her alone to do that, and she was like, no, I want my new husband to be my sounding board. I was like, oh, please. Like, seriously, please. So Zaina basically did get jealous in regards to JR with Sandy, and I thought, well, it's a twofer because Nick is jealous too at the end of the day. I think it's because everybody sees the sex and lust vibes that comes off the both of them, to be honest with you. I mean, JR literally sweats sex whenever he talks to Sandy or about Sandy. Of course, Zaina is talking about her feelings towards JR and Sandy being together, and then Scotty has to make sure at some point in that conversation, rather than listening to what it is to Zaina is saying and how she's feeling in that moment and validating her feelings for her, yeah, he has to make sure that he is pushed to the forefront in regards to saying, well, what I said to you today, I hope you heard because I meant it. I'm like, dude, come on. Read the motherfucking room. She didn't really need to hear that at this point in time. And this copy and paste bullshit, yeah, is doing my head in. Like, seriously doing my head in. Zaina talks about how she wants to follow the process. So she wants to be a loyal trial wife. And I'm, again, what does this mean? What are you expecting under the heading of wifey or trial wife? What does that equate to at the end of the day? I believe that Zaina is in love with the idea of marriage, but doesn't know the scope of what it is to probably make a marriage work at the end of the day. So she's completely gone all goo goo gaga over Scotty. I think that would disappear quite quickly when the sparkle begins to drop off Scotty, and she starts to realise exactly what it is that Zaina sees. Anyway, so Scott is just carrying on like Arya, who at this point in time, Scotty is just too much for me. He knows exactly what to say, and this is where I get the feeling I'm just with all of them. I'm kind of like, do you like talk like this every day? Like, so Scotty's telling Zaina about how it's going to work out with them two regardless. I thought, Ross, okay then. So we go back to Arya and Caleb. And you see Caleb setting up the couch to sleep out there. So basically Arya is under the impression that Scotty will be respectful enough to sleep on the couch. Well, that's her motherfucking bubble burst, because you know what? Scotty and Zaina quickly jumped in that bed with each other, and this is what I mean. Arya continues to show loyalty to this man, and for what is what I'm saying at the end of the day. So you see Nick and Vanessa's talking about being in a safe space with each other, and she feels Nick would be a great partner in life, and Nick thinks that Vanessa genuinely sees him. Nick is scared, as he says Vanessa's heart is extraordinary, and that's what he look for in a life partner. And I thought to myself, do you know what, this pillow talk with people is going to get them into trouble. It really is going to get them into trouble, because when they play this shit back in a reunion, if they do, yeah, you're going to have to explain what you meant by the words that you are saying at this moment in time. And this is why I say, I mean, these men, namely Scotty and Nick, do they practice saying this shit in the mirror? Like, seriously, because it just comes off like it's very much scripted. Like, and I have to ask, put it in the comments, say whatever you need to say, has anyone encountered someone who talks in the way that they do? I am really interested to know, because the way in which they talk, it's just a lot. Seriously, it's a lot. So, and you see Zaina and Vanessa literally lighting up each time they say these things, and that's why I'm saying Nick and Scotty do it all the more, because they see the reaction that they get from these women when they say the things that they say. There's no reading in between the lines. It's a given at the end of the day. So you see Sandy and JR, and it's again with the sexual flirt and banter, right? Now Sandy has got to the point now of asking JR exactly what JR stands for. And I thought, what, you're only just asking this man his actual name? No. So JR stands for John Richard, and her real name is Sandra with an O. I was like, oh, okay, alright. Whew. They're both playing with fire. Like, seriously, them two together are both playing with fire. And I really think for JR, it was literally the option so he could step out on his girl and see what else was out there, to be honest with you. So then, the fucked up thing is, we see at 3:18 a.m. in the morning, Micah and Chanel be texting each other. And I thought, I knew it. They couldn't be without each other at the end of the day. So Micah actually leaves the flat, and then Mariah is looking at him, because Micah didn't even say a bye or leave to this gal. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, okay, he's already gone for a beauty call with Chanel. Either that or they done a moonlight flit off the show completely. And if they did, then Chanel would be literally resigning herself to a life of just confirming to be called wifey in name only. But I don't know if it would spur Micah to pop the damn question, but we'll see what happens. But at least you do see Chanel at least tell Dave she's going out to get fresh air, but we all knew where the frick she was going. And the fucked up thing is Dave was so concerned about her welfare, especially going out at this time in the morning. So what I think she was doing, especially with Micah, was piss poor behaviour at the end of the day, because Dave was absolutely worried, and he had the right to be. She hadn't left the door yet, when she knows she's not going to be on her own, and that's what she's telling him. So she's basically lying in his face, which was kind of messy on Chanel's part at the end of the day. Both Chanel and Micah were being quite messy, and I think if Chanel had told Dave the truth, that her and Micah have been texting back and forth and she actually wants to go and talk to him, I don't think Dave would have minded either way, to be honest with you. I really don't think he would have minded. So day one begins. You see Chanel sneak back into the flat after 8 o'clock in the morning. I thought that's fucked up in and of itself. You see Caleb and Arya is getting along with each other. I'm going to have to say I really do like Caleb. You see Chanel also apologizes to Dave for leaving him, but doesn't tell him what she did She don't tell him what she did and what she was doing. You know, she just went out to go clear her hair, but you know, not so many minutes later, you and Michael were texting each other back and forth. So Nick tells Vanessa, basically that Sandy has told him her and JR kissed. And I was like, well, how the fuck did that come about? Like, really, how did that conversation come about? Because Nick is trying to paint it like he went to go to the coffee shop, yeah, and Sandy happened to be there. Then all of a sudden, Sandy's told him her and JR have kissed. How did that conversation happen? How did that go to get to that end result at the end of the day? I think Nick is very much upset by this, which is understandable, and this is why I say you are never truly exes on this show. You are never truly exes on this show. I think Nick will spiral from this information. Vanessa is trying to be there for him, but he wants to be alone at that point. I don't know though if Nick seemed very, very like upset, and I don't know if it seemed to me a little bit contrived when he tried to be fully upset. I know it's going to hurt hearing the fact that, you know, the woman that you've been with for so many years and looking to marry, and that's why you brought her on the show, because she refuses to kiss somebody else. But it just seemed to me that at some points Nick was literally trying to force these emotions out, because he was upset but didn't seem to be full on upset, and there were no tears when he was trying to cry. So you do see him hug Vanessa, and it honestly looked like he was crying at that point, but it just came off like a dramatic effect because I saw no tears at all. I didn't see any tears. I saw him like put his hands in his eyes and then kind of wipe, and he went like this. But for me, it just wasn't, his emotions were not connecting. Like, seriously was not connecting. So I don't know what was happening there, but that is where that episode ended. I'll be back in quick succession with the next episode. All I ask is you please hit that subscribe button, you please hit that notification button, so when you know I'm going to do videos, please comment, like, share and do the good things that you do, because you know what, I continue to be on the road to 1k, and I thank you all for hanging out with me thus far. Speak soon. Peace out.